Gangster Bet is Icon's next generation NFT collectibles of 5,555 gangsters and detectives, with changeable names and stats. Holders of Gangster Bet NFTs receive daily distributions of GBet tokens. GBet can be used to upgrade their NFT skills and stats. The supply of GBet will decrease over time and will stop after 9 years. Holding Gangster Bet NFTs will have opportunities for future airdrops and will give you access to Gangster Bet's highly anticipated metaverse. Learn more at gangsterbet.io. Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players, for the players. Eye on Icon is proudly supported by Icon Nation and the Icon community. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon, the episode where we go around the ecosystem and get you the latest and greatest news. Now with me as always, Icongrapher, how are you today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. What is happening in the markets today, my friend? Is it doom and gloom? I'm scared to look.
I mean, it was, it's basically whatever the stock market, we're back to, well, not even back, it's just, I think there was about 5 minutes where we got uncorrelated there, for it felt like, but it seems like we're back to just full-on correlation. There must be a bunch of bots that are just literally just plugged into the stock market, and whatever it does, they immediately just do the same thing on Bitcoin or whatever, just because it is. Like, I'll check, I'll notice, like, oh, Bitcoin went down, so I'll load up my stock app or the futures app. It's like, oh, yep, sure enough, it's because, futures are red or futures are green or whatever it might be. So I don't think this is like a permanent occurrence for the rest of time. But it's just, we're kind of just in like this little lull in the markets. And, I think, there was the stock market as a whole, not a financial advice, not financial advisor, all that other good stuff. Just seemed like it's very common for there to be, 10, 12% corrections in the midst of bull markets and things like that. So, I think as soon as it turns a little bit red, everyone says, oh, no, this is all right, bull market's over. But, these things are pretty normal. So, if it keeps dropping and dropping and dropping, we'll have to reevaluate. But just for now, I don't know if our volume's low or what, but it seems like the kind of just the algorithmic trading bots, correlation bots have just kind of taken over for the time being. So obviously, and, speaking correlation, I think we know ICX for the most part is tied to the broader market. Occasionally have its own little ups and downs and things like that, but for the most part, it's kind of boring now. Ideally, I think if we can have some sort of significant break up, I think that's what will kind of shake out of that correlation mode. But until that happens, it's just whatever the stocks are doing is what crypto's going to be doing. It seems like.
Yeah, agree. Like, and if you look at it's just all terrible on the SPX. You can see got the chart up with that wedge that just keeps going, and it's dropped out of it a few times and come back, and this one's looking like a drop. But yeah, look, at some point this climb up has to come to an end, and we're just seeing that reflected. But yeah, the rates they're on hold. Just talk of rates going up just makes the markets implode, and then they're like, oh, we'll hold for a little while longer. But I guess markets are still like, well, that's not good enough unless there's.
Well, it's funny how like rates didn't, in my recollection, like they never were this big of a deal, right? It was just like the Fed would occasionally raise them by 25 basis points or 50 or whatever, and it was just kind of like whatever. Like in 2017, when there was the market was hot and the crypto bull run was on, they raised interest rates 3 times that year. So it's not like it actually kind of really mattered. It's just the narrative for whatever reason has just been like so driven and attached to interest rates, where it's like they can basically, there's the belief that interest rates are literally the only thing that ever decides the stock market, which is just historically definitely not the case. And they might in the short term, but I think what we're seeing is there's the expectation. So when they actually raise rates, I don't think it'll actually matter that much because again, it's, I know sometimes saying priced in is a meme, but I think in this case they certainly are.
Yeah, exactly. Agree. Cool. Well, look, price action, I think you touched on everything. Everything seems to still be in the red when I'm looking at the charts. ICX is holding that fine support line that I've had on there every time I show this chart at 60. Oh, it's really just completely nudging on that. So let's see what happens. But it's broken most of the trends, so not looking the best. But that's with everything. You look at it. There's some kind of head and shoulders or some kind of major trend broken. So um, yeah, this is a full blown correction or a mini bear market or full blown bear market. Who knows? Overall, though, like one thing I always come back to, and I can go for a point, is compared to that 2017 where there was just nothing to use on the blockchains where that were mooning. At least now we have working products. So yes, the price isn't good to look at, but nothing's stopping. I don't know about you, but I'm going and getting my yield off the various protocols every day and cashing it into stablecoin and putting it in a high interest account on Ohm or other platforms. You're doing the same thing, aren't you, Icongrapher?
Yep, I've got a good thing going with Optimus right now.
Yeah.
So even the we'll probably talk a little later, but token price actually went up from like I don't know $11 to what's it
17?
17, yeah, a little bit above 17. So that was kind of surprising. So for those who have for those who are earning yield on Optimus, certainly a glimmer of hope there, at least for the last day or so.
Yep, that reminds me, I got to go harvest my yield on Optimus. Okay, good one, good one. But that's just
and the futures just opened. I'm looking at it, and they're pretty green. So
yeah.
until they reverse in 3 hours, by the time you're actually listening to this, at least there's some glimmer. Again, another little glimmer of hope. Hopefully, it's not outdated by the time you're listening.
Yeah, and that just seals home the point, right? Like just to the earlier convo, there's plenty of stuff going on. We're actually utilizing all the dApps that are being built, regardless of bull or bear market. So I feel it's different this time. So let's see what happens. But look, there's a lot going on in the world as well, right? So I read this post by Paul, one of the guys from Real Vision, I think, and he really states, crypto has been kind of in a bubble. The rest of the world, it's been on fire. A lot of shit going on. Crypto's been in this bubble, just mooning, and it was only a matter of time before the outside world impacts what's going on here. But his final call out was, but at the end of the day, we still have products versus before there was nothing. So I don't think people should be like, oh, this is it. No, we're done. Same shit as before. I don't think so. I think it's still a very small market cap, and this kind of volatility is expected. So as long as it's evolving and growing, we're good. Let's dive into the news. What do we have first up?
So this is something we alluded to in the last episode. We have a new round of proposals up for the CPS. There's 7 here. TJ had a pretty good thread kind of describing all of them. I don't know if we need to necessarily go through all of them. It is interesting. So the cap for the amount of budget approvals that can be done for each cycle, I guess you could say, is I think it's 200,000. Yeah, 200,000 BNUSD. So this is according to TJ, this is our second straight cycle of maxing out the allowed proposal amount for the application period. And he said he's already aware of enough proposals to max out the next application period as well. So he'll be exploring increasing this max cap. So obviously, a lot of usage of the CPS at this point in time. There's a couple I think are kind of cool. One of them's the Craft Rarity Hunter NFT tool. So this is basically a mechanism to better, kind of overlay some data on the existing. I think GangstaBet's kind of the key first use case, at least for this. Essentially, that does a good job of analyzing kind of what the rarity is of a given NFT and kind of producing a score for it. There's an initial website that's already exists now. I'm sure if you're in the GangstaBet community, you've used it at least a little bit. This project would basically look to kind of further build that out and create more kind of analytic tools. I think GangstaBet would be the preliminary use case, but obviously could expand to other rare, other NFTs that are based around having kind of different rarities and qualities and everything like that. Because it's hard to look at one of your NFTs and see it. Okay, 19% have this hat. 10% have these shoes, whatever, but really get a sense of like, okay, wait, how rare actually is that? So something that can analyze all that data and spit it out. It creates a healthier, a bit of a, I guess you'd say, a more liquid market, a healthier market, a more accurate market, and I think it generates a lot more activity too, because people are always looking for where they can get a deal or whatever else it might be. That's one I think is pretty cool. There's also there's an NFT game called Blobble, which has, it looks kind of simple, but also kind of looks kind of fun. The analogy they use is the Tamagotchi pets, which were, I remember they were popular when I was a kid, but basically, you kind of have to keep your blob ball around and alive and all that other good stuff. So this is another one where, it's kind of a full blown DApp game, whatever you kind of, it says NFT game. So there you go. That one I think is kind of cool.
So
There's and then
this
Yeah,
one
go
I
ahead.
can graph for one little cool thing that they have been promoting is so it because the way it's built in the browser, all the data is actually housed on blockchain, so they're not using the other storage methods or any centralized server. It's literally pulling the information off the blockchain, is what I read, I believe. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. And then a couple infrastructure upgrades, primarily dealing with the blockchain tracker. So that's something that's been in progress and should be nice. We've been the Icon X tracker has been around for, I guess the tracker that the Icon has been using has been around since 2018, basically since the mainnet. So it's certainly overdue for an overhaul, both in terms of just kind of how it operates, but some of the features that exist. A lot of those features aren't necessarily going to be for people who, kind of normal everyday iconists, but I think a lot of people who are developers and use those type of tools, be able to pull data out of there easier, things like that should generate some pretty interesting products. So there's a few other proposals on here. There's infrastructure and maintenance on Tip Icon, which I think a lot of people use, especially if you're in Telegram. Um, there's a gamified e-learning platform for blockchain education. So basically, and yeah, these all add up to about 200,000. Voting kind of just started, basically. So not a lot of votes have come in yet necessarily, but certainly keep an eye on these, because it's another healthy round of proposals coming through.
Yeah, look, I think you covered everything. I always encourage, if you didn't know, make sure you go check out this page, especially towards the end, to see the proposals, especially things that are getting rejected or voting against. And if or it's getting voted for, you can actually click and see who's doing what, for or against. And if you click on it, it gives a bit of a reason the PREP should be putting, as you can see, I've got it on screen here, and I tend to agree at the moment with what Gangster Bet had said about this particular project, the gamified e-learning. Me and Icongraph were talking about it beforehand as well, trying to understand what I understand the value add of education, but how is it helping Icon? Maybe it hasn't been really clarified in this application process. But overall, what I'm getting at is the beauty of this transparency is you can check what your peer reps are voting for, and is it aligned to your ethos. So you see it, and kind of you see your peer rep has voted against it. Well, then you need to start questioning why have they done it. And I always call this out. It's kind of a loop effect, right? You need to. The more involved you are, the more you understand things that are happening in the ecosystem. But yeah, great. It's good. Capped out. It's interesting that what Iconography mentioned is that increasing that amount, because now CPS, a certain amount gets sold into BNUSD, and obviously the projects are just consuming that BNUSD right off the bat. So yeah, I wonder what TJ means when he says explore further options. But interesting to see where that goes. What do we got next?
So we got a little bit of news on the NFT, again, more NFT gaming. So there's a strategic partnership between Iconloop, and a new Korean startup called Two Bytes. Basically, so it's, yeah, strategic partnership to launch. It's called Spera, which is a BTP-enabled cross-chain NFT gaming platform. So this is, again, this is not something we were entirely expecting, but kind of nice to see an initial well, there's already been some proposed use cases, but kind of a more concrete example of a potential use case for BTP. Basically wants to, they basically are building out a blockchain that specializes in cross-chain NFT gaming. So we don't have, and obviously utilizing BTP as kind of the core engine powering that. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot of details yet, just because we got the initial announcement just a couple days ago. But nonetheless, another nice, cool thing to see. Interested to see kind of what it'll look like, and as more details come out. And obviously, NFT and gaming, they're clearly the kind of the new horizon growing. So nice to see Icon, getting involved there. And like I said, looking forward to more details. But certainly on the surface, certainly a piece of good news that's should generate some excitement moving forward.
Yeah, look, I think this, when I think of it, I feel it's like flow blockchain with the NFTs, basketball. So here's a company, they want to create obviously some games. They're basically doing a fork and creating their own blockchain for it, but they will utilize BTP. So what I gauge from it is the chain should launch with BTP integration, and obviously then facilitate NFT transfers to its chain from any chain that's connected to BTP, obviously, the beauty of BTP. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves. I think this news has come out. Obviously, it's just kicked off and they're working on it, but overall, great. It's great to just see the more adoption in different ways, right? It doesn't need to be built on Icon. As long as they're incorporating the technology, it's good for Icon. Next up.
Absolutely. So, for those of you who are using Balanced, especially if you have a loan out and have collateral deposited and all that good stuff, there was a lot of activity this week, I guess, to put it lightly. There was, I think a lot of it. So I think if you're in it, you kind of know what happened. If not, basically there was kind of a perfect storm of situations. And kind of a lot of it was generated by the fact that the market was so volatile. Obviously, Bitcoin went down a good amount, which created the ICX to basically drop in price. So basically a combination of, basically there were large liquidations that occurred as a result of the falling price. There were a lot of high risk, people had a lot of high risk positions that were outstanding, which made them susceptible to additional liquidation. And the further kind of drop in ICX price, it kind of set off a cascade of events that essentially, it led to a lot of people getting liquidated who did not necessarily expect to get liquidated. One large user got liquidated. So basically, once his liquidation got triggered, there was collateral that was available for the 10% discount, which is how the mechanics of Balanced work. This basically created a lot of demand for BNUSD in order to liquidate that large position in order to pay off the debt. And so after that position was liquidated, BNUSD ended up being too high because there was demand for it, which triggered reverse rebalancing. And then as ICX dropped and continued to drop, other accounts started getting liquidated, which put even more pressure on the BNUSD peg and triggered more reverse rebalancing. And so it's just like kind of an ongoing cycle. And so a lot of people, they basically saw their collateral get liquidated. I think for the most part, I think those who had, sound risk management strategies and positions mostly did okay. I think it was a lot of those folks who had riskier positions, even to start out, even before the price started dropping, probably had a bit too high of a loan to value and weren't anticipating that, a price in crypto could drop that quick and that dramatically, which can certainly happen. I think when a price is going up, it doesn't feel like it can ever go down. But when it does go down, it can really go down really quickly, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard. So the DAO attempted to make some changes to at least stymie this momentum that was moving in the wrong direction. There was 3 votes in 24 hours. One of them was BIP 17, which increased the loan to value to 35%. BIP 18 increased the liquidation threshold from 67 to 85% loan to value. So basically, this made it harder to get liquidated. Essentially, there was another proposal to increase the rebalancing threshold to 8%. This one did not go through, but the other two did. And then two more proposals were submitted. One was to increase the loan to value ratio to 67%. So basically, it went up to 35 and then up again to 67%, and then raising the rebalancing threshold to 10%. So these were done to kind of reduce. So basically, these changes, they allowed people who, if they had collateral that was locked due to the loan to value requirements, they were able to basically start deleveraging their positions, and then with more flexibility. And I'm reading now from the post-mortem, with more flexibility in the BNUSD peg to prevent these adjustments from triggering additional rebalancing. So it seems like these proposals, I don't say resolved, because who knows what could still happen, but seemingly looked like it improved the situation for a good amount. There are some other measures that are looking to prevent a situation like this occurring in the future. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. I encourage you to read the postmortem, because I think it does give a pretty good overview of what exactly happened, how they attempted to fix it, and how they're looking to avoid the issue in the future. So if you haven't had a chance to read it and you're involved in Balanced one way or another, especially if you're a BAL and token holder, certainly recommend reading it.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's sad what happened. I do believe at the end of the day, everything functioned as it was meant to, but the way the spiraling effect kind of compounded how quickly everything just kept happening over and over again. And I can talk to it because I also had a loan, and I've always said on the show, like, never don't take too much of a risk when you're leveraging, especially with your stash. And particularly with Balance, always called out that it liquidates your entire stash if you've got that on. So, and one of the things I've always made sure is that even when I'm playing with like a 12 cents liquidation. Icongraph, even on the show, I've really always said that, like, I don't dabble any higher. The worst I've made it is 20 cents to what I've borrowed. And Icongraph in 8 hours literally borrowed my loan amount within 8 hours. So I went and I came back and I'd paid down the loan, and that's how much rebalancing had rebought ICX. Now, for me personally,
so your loan basically. So if you had, I don't know, I'm just throwing numbers out here. If your loan was for $1,000,
yeah,
when you went to bed, when you woke up, your loan was now $2,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can see, and I'm guessing whatever stage you were at, it was happening that quickly. So if, my example, I had my liquidation price at 12 cents, that went up to 25 cents, etc. But people who were borrowing it to the top end and were getting, say, liquidity locked at whatever cents, etc., I can see how it's caused issues. Especially once you're locked, you can't sell off the collateral to pay down the loan in Balanced itself, which is a feature they said they're working on. But look, these have been known facts about the way the protocol works. We just haven't seen rebalancing happen at such an extreme. So everyone was shocked and kind of didn't know what to do. So it's good the team has come out. Also, one of the things you can see in the final point, they've called out that there is a percentage of the liquidations that goes down to the emergency fund in the DAO, and I believe there's a few conversations happening there. Well, given the severity of the way things went down, should that portion be refunded? But all that information, there are links there. We encourage you to go, not just look, share your views as well. That's the whole point of this process. Overall, though, do appreciate people have lost money through this, and definitely feel for them. One thing I do also want to call out is, so we saw right away, once this started happening, people were questioning the liquidations, who's running bots and things like that. And I've been quite vocal about this topic as well. From my point of view, I've always said that the idea of managing the rebalancing component should kind of be open or simplified to everyone, or housed in-house. So then no particular person, etc., is with a unique skill set can take advantage of it. But look, I've been reflecting on that, and I thought in my head, I may have got this part wrong, because by that logic, for example, your iconographer, your people who do on-chain data identify long and short squeezes. Is it unfair that they are able to look at that data and then take advantage of it? That's not a right outlook from that point of view. The fact is that the protocol is designed in this way. For it to mint a stable coin, there needs to be rebalancing that happens to keep the peg. In this case, the rebalancers who had bots or whatever were doing their job, which was trying to keep the peg. Otherwise, BNUSD wouldn't be a stable coin. It would be a token that goes up and drops based on whatever the market sees fit. So I do want to call out there that I've seen a bit of hate towards these people or this idea, and that's kind of wrong. No, that shouldn't be happening. The fact is, they were just doing what the protocol has been designed to have done in the background. So yeah, and to the idea that they're making off with a ton of money, it's just not true. So and it's called out in this article what they get to keep for buying the bad debt and selling, and that is hopefully they sell it at that rate and it hasn't dropped, so their profit margins would change dramatically based on things happening. So yeah, look, just my 2 cents there. It's a terrible thing that's happened, but let's not jump on the people in the background who are rebalancing and things like that, because it's not their fault. They're just doing what's been designed to do. And finally, kudos to the balance team though. Like, again, you saw Scott at the front foot just answering question after question. I don't think he slept for a couple of days, just the way he was in those chats. So and you know what? It made a world of difference. Like, people who had lost a bit, they were just feeling at peace that someone was there answering their questions. So it goes a long way when you engage with the community. I think that's good for balanced. I don't have anything else to add. I can graph.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. So looking at Ohm, we got a roadmap. I think it probably just came out like right after we recorded our last episode, so it's a little bit old. Basically, looks at roadmap update for January. Just went through kind of the 4 governance proposals that were approved most recently in December. So Proposal 4, which is the reward allocation change for stablecoins, just some adjustments to the stablecoin OM rewards to kind of change the incentives there. And I think we've pretty much talked through all these, but just kind of rehashing them really quick. The protocol fee for protocol liquidity, that was a proposal that came about a few weeks ago. That one went through. Adding OM and BALN to OM as markets essentially. We've talked about that a bit as well, and then also turn the Icon borrow market back on after the airdrop snapshot date. So these are already you probably should have already seen these by now or been aware of them if they haven't been implemented just yet. But nonetheless, and we've talked through them, but at least wanted to kind of rehash those there really quick. They are also looking at some targets for January. They plan to make some tweaks and releases to the interest rate history chart. So just nice little user interface thing to get a better sense of how the interest rates have changed over time. Continue to research and create an OM staking API for PREPs to leverage. Continue to research potential improvements to the token economics and brainstorm user interface solutions for token economic enhancements. So nothing like super overly ground changing or anything like that. But I think little subtle improvements here and there that certainly improve both the experience, but also the long-term benefits of utilizing OM and potentially holding the OM token as well. So these updates are always nice. Sometimes it's a lot of just kind of reorganizing old information, but sometimes I forget kind of what's been happening and things like that. So just to get a nice little newsletter looking update, and also inevitably kind of projecting what to look forward to in the future. Always nice to see, and certainly a lot of reasons to be excited about OM moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. 2 things. One, this protocol loan liquidity. I loved reading actually the stats of how much liquidity was owned and good use of DAO funds and put back in. And we saw Ohm's price kind of react very positively because it all of a sudden jumped from something went up to 19 cents and now it's hovering around 15, I think. But overall, it's good to see some figures around it and just how much now is owned by the protocol, which indirectly has impacted emissions because obviously, if there's close to $1 million worth of liquidity that the protocol has put into the pools, they're reaping the rewards of the own distribution, which is then obviously either going into the DAO or the pool. So, which is a good thing because we know with protocol owned liquidity, the more the protocol owns, the less more liquidity is removed, which gives more stability to the price. The next thing that I actually really loved was actually not really loved. It's a correction. So Icongrapher last week, I went on a bit of a rant, right? And someone commented on the YouTube video, and I was like, oh my god, of course. So I had big issue with. I've taken issue with own being listed where you can supply it as an asset. Now, in all of it, like we identified, a lot of money markets do this and don't allow you to borrow OHM. Now,
borrow their own governance token.
Exactly, but
yeah.
What I didn't obviously in all of that just got clouded was, but you can still supply OHM and borrow other assets. Okay, like in all of that, at this point, completely obviously it's a money market. All I got zoned in was I can't borrow the exact asset, but no, you can supply OHM and then you can still borrow the other assets that ICX, BNUSD, IUSDC, whatever. So yeah, apologies on such a glaring omission on my end. I appreciated. I forget the user's name. I should have looked it up, but thank you for taking the time to call that out. He put it really well and explained it, and I was like, oh, I just had this absolute brain fart moment. That's what they call it.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly an advantageous use case, but I think it would be cool to be able to borrow OHM because you'd want to it would help. I think it'd be cool to see how much what the demand is for governance power when it comes to voting for different P-reps, because I think this, and I don't know if this makes a practical difference, but almost just from a purely academic curiosity thing. Just being able to have a number of oh wow, the demand to borrow OHM is off the charts, and it's super expensive because people want to use it because they can multiply their governance voting power, because people who have OHM can vote how the ICX or SICX is allocated to different P-reps, and the P-reps oftentimes, Gangsta Bet's an example where they can track who's voting for them with OHM, which generates downstream benefits there, where then now people get, I think it's the GG airdrop down the line. So there's a lot of that's a really core feature of OHM that I think it would be interesting to see just how much demand there is for that, and where exactly that the cost benefit line really crosses. So again, I don't know if that's there's arguments. He said okay, should people be able to inflate their governance power with something they don't necessarily own? I think that's a good conversation to have. But that's how I see it. Is there's a core intrinsic value in OHM, and the fact that it not only lets you vote on OHM, but it really it can leverage your own governance stake that you have via Icon and ICX in order to get additional PREP benefits or whatever else it might be.
Yep, no, agree. Okay, next up, Optimus.
Yep. So the long-awaited staking on the Fin BNUSD pair on balanced. So the stake, the liquidity pool anyone can create, which a few people did for a couple of the different pairs, but there was no incentives other than you get the trading fees, but there weren't be any BAL incentives, and there weren't any other incentives. So the pool launched where now you can stake your liquidity protocol tokens from balanced into the Optimus interface and get a pretty handsome APY. I'm not sure exactly what it is now. I'm having trouble on my computer here.
It was
But
1,000%. I didn't yesterday or this morning. It's still 1,000 APR, not APY. APR. So,
yeah, and then key difference there is the APR. APY is what it would be over the course of a year if you when you include the compounding, whereas APR does not include the compounding. So you have to do a little bit of math with with a calculator. Basically it's even high. If it says an APR, it's usually actually the actual interest rate once you factor in the compounding is usually a little bit higher. I think it's just it's generated a lot of liquidity for the pool, which is obviously good. So if you're trying to trade Fin, buy it, sell it, whatever, you can do that without creating too much of a dramatic change in the price one way or another. It started in I think it started in the 20s or 30s. I think it got all the way up to 55 or so, and then started kind of crashing back down. I think it bottomed at around 10, and as I alluded to earlier, over the last day or so, it's been creeping upwards. So now it's up to now it's at 17.27. So I think everyone was trying to predict what the price would be. For BALN, it started really high and then went really low down. Ohm started kind of low, went really high, and then came back down. Whereas I don't know, Fin seems to be doing a combination of each, or something like that. So we'll see if this uptrend continues. I'm curious what caused it necessarily. People might be trying to buy more FIN because as you mentioned, that APR is still pretty good on staking it. Staking the LP tokens and providing liquidity. So that might be part of what's driving demand. But go ahead.
Even staking, that's still sitting at 300% APR. So if you're just trying to hold, but what's this total supply again? Icongraph, I always forget. Is it?
It's 10,000 a day of total tokens minted. So it's been around since the 8th, so almost 20 days now. So there's probably a little under 200,000 tokens, but only I think it's 12.5% go to the borrowers, 12.5% go to the liquidity providers, like the people who are using that strategy, and then 5% go to those who are staking their LP tokens.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me, but basically, so there's a large percentage of the Fin distribution is going into the DAO and or the team. And my sense is the team isn't selling any of their tokens. So the actual supply versus the actual kind of what's on the market is certainly much different, especially when you factor in the amount of FIN that's staked at a given time.
So, because the next up, they've released a bit of their roadmap. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this. So,
yep. So just they're doing some background Java contracts migration. All the current contracts on mainnet are supposed to be converted to Java within the next 3 months. So if you're not a developer, not a whole lot to care about with that. But on a more kind of notable note, they do plan to release OMM strategies. They say to support ICX and BNUSD lenders with integration to BALN borrower strategy. So that's a bit general. And then also release of staking strategies to support OMM and BALN stakers, also with integration to BALN OM strategies. So, it looks like we're going to get some more strategies on the horizon here. I'm not entirely sure what exactly the specifics of those strategies look like. Those might be getting worked out, but I think that's kind of what a lot of people were looking forward to, is something different than just the current liquidity providing or the borrowing. There's also going to be releasing of governance voting for those who are staking Fin, which I think if you've used Ohm or Balanced, you're pretty familiar with as far as how the governance works. And then they also want to make sure Fin gets listed on CoinMarketCap, which is always a nice little bonus. Just kind of creates a bit more information floating on out there and makes it easier to look up price if it's not easily accessible in other areas.
Yep. No, that's good. Excellent. Next up, Karma DAO.
Yep. So they have released their official. I don't know if
it's not. It's
a new website. So I'm trying to remember if they had one kind of pre-existing. Looks pretty good. I like just from a general interface standpoint, looks pretty slick, pretty good information here. We've talked about Karma a good amount in the past. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the website and get a bit more information, I would certainly recommend that because it's pretty well put together. And, it kind of reminds me of the balance site a little bit. It's very clear, fairly straight to the point, and a good resource for those who want to learn more a bit. So I really like the branding that they're doing on this project. It's been looking pretty good thus far. And branding obviously isn't everything, but when we don't have a whole lot to chew on just yet, it's certainly nice to see.
Yeah, and it's Karma Finance. I don't know why I went down Karma Dow. Why did I say that? Anyway, but yeah, excited. Good to see the site. The team's doing a lot of stuff there. Cool. I can't wait for it to just be ready. Hopefully that's soon.
Well, I think they're working pretty hard and cranking pretty quick. So I don't know, not to say it's coming out tomorrow or anything like that, but I think it seems like that they're moving along at a pretty good pace on that one. So that's certainly nice to see.
Yep. Next up,
we got some a look at crafting on Project Nebula, which I think is something that people were aware was coming out, but is a kind of a key next feature set in Project Nebula, which is, I think Project Nebula is basically the first NFT platform of any sort on Icon. I'm trying to remember if there's any. It's certainly the first major one. So there's still a lot of dedicated fan base there, dedicated community behind Project Nebula, a lot of excitement behind crafting, and kind of it's a way to kind of generate your own I would say tool, just kind of a number of accessories that work within the game in the form of NFTs and other good stuff like that. So if you're a Project Nebula fan, I'm sure you're already aware. But if not, or if you have maybe you have some Project Nebula ships that you haven't necessarily touched in a few days or something like that, certainly check in on this and read more about it. There's a pretty, I won't say super lengthy article, but it's certainly a detailed and informative article that's been posted. So certainly, definitely give that a look.
Yeah, really excited about this. I still play it. Found 2 legendaries in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. Just so some sectors have opened up. I noticed I started flying around, and which is cool. But overall, you can see they've always said the game was going to evolve, right? And one call out is these aren't shipping just yet, but there's still 2 features from the last update to ship. But at least you can see it's very clearly mapped out, and they've already. It's just. They like before, even with the game, they clearly shared a lot of information very early on, and they're doing the same thing here. So, quite excited about crafting things because I've been hoarding a whole lot of stuff and I don't know what to do with it. So, can't wait to explore once this gets enabled. But yeah, definitely still enjoying it. Still make sure I get annoyed if I've forgotten, the day to use my fuel and explore. I'm like, damn it, what a waste of a day. So. Cool. What next up? We have Wonderland's vision for cross-chain interoperability. So go ahead. I can go for.
Okay. Yeah. So this is one that Wonderland they announced, I don't know, a month or 2 ago. They've gotten some CPS funding. They've been building a nice little community on Discord. At least that's where I've kind of noticed things. And so there seems to be a lot of momentum going behind that one. Basically, it's an NFT game, kind of with an Alice in Wonderland type of theme to it. There's its own kind of token economics that goes with it as well. What they announced is that they are going to launch via BTP a cross-chain game between Ice, basically with Ice and Snow, as well as with Harmony. Harmony was chosen because Harmony already has a nice. It's within that interoperability universe, but it's also shown that it's been a nice platform, I guess you could say, for gaming. It's kind of seen as one of the best GameFi ecosystems. DeFi Kingdom is one that's been getting a lot of traction lately. So they kind of see it as a good market where there's a lot of already kind of experience and familiarity already with gaming. So obviously, a nice application of a cross-chain, something cross-chain that's beyond just, it's not just token wrapping and token minting. It's actually a game that works cross-chain with NFTs and all that good stuff. So some relatively advanced stuff. Very, very cool news to see. It's a nice, initial. I think we already knew they were planning to build on Ice, I believe, but nonetheless, a nice. I guess the kind of the first explicit cross-chain application being proposed for Ice. So certainly some good news there.
Yeah. It's good. Look, Harmony, DeFi Kingdoms, that's the breakout hit they've had. Mentioned it a couple of times on the show. So it's good. They've actually, Wonderland's built an excellent community, very engaged. Um, I've been umming and ahhing. I don't know how I feel because, didn't realize. No, it's a good thing. I was umming and ahhing how I felt about it launching somewhere else first. But overall, look, I think this is where Harmony's got the BTP integration being built, and once Snow is live, they've called out. Obviously they'll deploy on Snow first because the strategy for Ice and Snow has become integration into the Polkadot ecosystem. So overall, this is great because they can launch as soon as Snow is ready with its ships with BTP. They can start moving things, and straight away we've got some utility happening with BTP. So excited to see this come to fruition. And yeah, if you aren't part of the community, get in there. They play games. There's white. I've missed all the white. I've kind of given up on the whitelist. It's hard to follow what's going on these days. So yeah, when it launches, it launches. If we get in. Don't. But confidence is high given they're the team that shipped Gangster Bet as well. So next up.
We have a Winible roadmap for 22. So Winible, if you don't know, is the NFT project that launched on. I don't know if it did it launch on Craft. No, it had its own launch on its own separate website. It does trade on Craft. Basically, it's a wine collection essentially. You can purchase the NFT. The NFT allows you to exchange it for an actual physical bottle of wine, which they ship to you. And if you do that, the NFT gets burned. So it's a nice way to kind of a way to speculate on a wine collection without having to worry about the actual physical storage and everything like that. They have announced their roadmap, which it's actually got a pretty good amount in there. There's mentions of winery partnerships, Winible membership with membership tokens, airdrops, something called a premium seller. Like a seller with a C, like a wine cellar, which I haven't been super familiar with. I'm not sure if that's the first kind of mention of it. There's also a digital seller, design upgrade. I'm just kind of there's about 50 things on here, so I'm just kind of pulling stuff off. But obviously, if you're in the community, I'm sure you've been following this pretty close. If you're not involved in Winible, there's obviously a lot of good stuff here that might convince you to become part of that community and potentially, purchase one of those NFTs. But nice to see that project continue building. I mean, I think it kind of as it was like a kind of a finalized use case. It had people had the wine and they could, store it or do whatever with it. Or they could trade it, speculate on it. But it's nice to see them, continue to kind of build it out. It's not. I guess the point is like the NFT itself already had value. A lot of these NFT ecosystems require there to be kind of ongoing building and tokens and everything like that. Whereas in this case, you actually own the bottle of wine, so you've already established your value. So from that standpoint, they could have not stopped the project, but at least they didn't have to go kind of above and beyond and continue to build an ecosystem. But it's cool to see them do that. So I look forward to seeing what these new features are, how they work, and how the project continues to grow.
Agree. I still got my bottle. I actually was looking at this today, so I was like, "Oh, I missed this tweet," and I'm trying to follow along. I may have to pick your brain. I'm feeling a little lost, but I agree with what you've just said, though. Like, I really appreciate the team hasn't just stopped there. They've kind of gone back to the drawing board and gone, "Okay, so we've done it. We've created our wine collection. We've done this entire rarity thing, how people get their collection, etc. It's redeemable. But what more can we do? How can we make this more prestigious?" And I like the Winible Club. It just so happens, Iconloop, I've been watching Frasier at the moment, and the show they're very big of their wine club and thing. So when I saw this, I don't know, it really resonated with me for some reason. So. Love what they're trying to do and build out. And in fact, it would be cool to get them on the show to talk about it, because this is again very different to. There's a lot of variations now in the NFT space, which is great to see. It's not just here's an NFT, buy it. They're trying to create their own communities and use cases and utility out of their projects that they're building. So. Yeah, we may do that. Let's get them on the show. If they're listening, come on the show. Excellent. What's next?
I I think that pretty much covers it for this week.
Yep. So the only other thing was just a quick plug. If you aren't already aware, Crafts Corner has been kicked off. This is kind of cool because there's a lot going on centering around craft. Yes, there's craft. It's the platform that enables, but we've got yourself, Icongrapher. You did a few different NFT series. We've got all these Pink Punks, NFT Chef. Now we've got Tamashi and Gangster Bet. Well, the thing goes on. So obviously some of the creators got together and thought, well, what if we do it at Crafts Corner, Twitter Space, where the artists can come talk about their project. They also, and this part is what I thought was really cool. They've created like a Crafts Corner NFT donation thing, so you can literally click on the link and see what NFTs have been thrown in there that they'll probably give away. How, what, I don't know, all of that, but I thought the idea was cool. And there's so much, it's hard to sit down and interview everyone and understand what they're trying to do and create, but this enables a lot of them to get their vision out apart from just tweeting, hey, this NFT and this is what it means. They can jump into Crafts Corner and talk about it a little bit. So if you aren't, make sure you set a reminder, and great way to get across the projects. Like personally, Tamashi was a great one we interviewed, and it was just great hearing what they're trying to do and how theirs is a bit very different to a lot of the NFT projects because it's extremely story driven and you're kind of buying the character off the story, which was really cool. And just hearing some of the ideas of how it would evolve, I hadn't thought of NFTs in that way personally before the show. So I came away from it and I had a new appreciation for it. So hopefully Crafts Corner brings out a lot of more of these projects that have been releasing and doing things in the background as well. I think that's it then, Icongrapher. That's the news for the week. So, look, as always, like, subscribe, share. Not financial advice, please do your own research. Please be careful. Understand what you're using. I mean, balance, it's a shame what's happened. It's a very harsh reminder, but there is plenty of content out there and support out there to ask questions to make sure you're not putting yourself at risk. But as always, everyone, thank you for listening. Until next week, take care.
See ya.